To understand whether or not the Fets are Mandalorians, we must first understand what it means to be a Mandalorian. In the expanded universe, Mandalorian identity was more about culture than bloodline. As such, the Fets were considered Mandalorians, and Boba Fett himself was Mandalore for a time. However, canon standards of Mandalorians differ greatly. In canon,
Evening,
Mandalorian
Daniel.
clan structure was like a pyramid, with
You're
the
quick,
ruler
buddy.
or Mandalore at the top and the protectors enforcing their rule. Below them were the political factions known as the Houses, made up of family clans. One example was House Vizsla, which was comprised of Clan Vizsla and Clan Ren. Under the rule of Duchess Satine Kryze and the new Mandalorian government during the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians had mostly rejected their martial
I'm just learning about how Jango Fett and Boba Fett are not Mandalorian. They're honorary Mandalorian or something.
Boba Fett is responsible for the popularity among fans of Mandalorian armor. Boba himself was never confirmed to be a Mandalorian, or to have ever been exposed to the Mandalorian culture, in canon at least, despite the mythosaur skull on his pauldron. Son of the legendary bounty hunter Jango Fett, he was
Bounty
raised
hunter.
with the intent of being trained from birth to be the greatest bounty hunter alive, a profession that Mandalorians have taken up, with Jango working hard to pass on all that he knew. After losing his father in his childhood, Boba followed in Jango's footsteps, pursuing a life of bounty hunting. Using
Bounty
Jango's
hunting.
contacts, Boba began his profession at an extremely young age, gaining experience and renown across the galaxy. Boba wore the armor of his deceased father, battered and scarred from Boba's years of hunting. Boba Fett's identity was only ever in bounty hunting, and he was never taught or practiced in the Mandalorian ways, nor was he inducted into their culture or a Mandalorian clan, more importantly. Boba Fett was quite literally raised as a bounty hunter, and although a favoured profession of some Mandalorians, he is not, by definition, a Mandalorian by blood. And it was originally a bounty hunter object of fact. Apart from his pay, which is considerable, Fett demanded only one thing, an unaltered clone for himself. Curious, isn't it? In order to understand who Boba Fett is, we must first understand his father more so. I say father loosely, as we know from Attack of the Clones that Boba is, in actuality, an unaltered clone of Jango himself, taken on and raised as the son of the bounty hunter. Since their
Bounty
genetic code is
hunter.
literally identical, we can safely conclude that if we understand the heritage of Jango, we also understand the heritage of Boba. Now, according to the Complete Visual Dictionary, during the years leading up to the Clone Wars, Jango Fett was esteemed as the greatest bounty hunter in the galaxy. With tact and finesse, Fett had gained enough of a reputation to be selected as the ideal template for a clone army. His fame and intimation was only enhanced by wearing the armor of the greatest warrior culture in the galaxy, because the Feds were, and I dare say, made the Mandalorian armor iconic in the Star Wars universe. It has been assumed for many years by audiences that the Fets, or at least Jango, were Mandalorians themselves, since that would be the most natural way they would acquire said armor. Jango Fett himself claims to come from the planet Concord Dawn, one of the primary planets in the Mandalorian sector. Concord Dawn was one of the first planets conquered by the early Mandalorian people. The planet suffered heavy collateral damage in the Crusades, with half of the planet being shattered and broken, the scars remaining to this day.
Hello, Governor.
May select many, both within and out of the Star Wars universe, to believe that Jango Fett was indeed a Mandalorian who left to pursue a life of bounty hunting. However,
Bounty hunting.
this was simply not true. George Lucas himself stated, somewhat controversially, in a conversation with Dave Filoni, that Boba, and by extension Jango, are not Mandalorian.
The assumption being when Attack of the Clones came out, of course Jango must be a Mandalorian because there he had the armor. But, you know, he's a bounty hunter. Bounty hunters we showed in the series were all kinds of armor. Of course, Boba Fett famously wearing Mandalorian armor. So you have that tradition of his father and son wearing this armor, but it doesn't speak to like the bigger warrior cat.
For generations, my ancestors fought
era surrounding the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians' warrior traditions were challenged as the new Mandalorians seized power and attempted to reform Mandalore into a pacifist world. Because of this, the Mandalorians who respected their warrior heritage were banished to the Mandalore's moon, Concordia. The warrior Mandalorians called themselves Death Watch and existed to preserve the honor of the Mandalorian way of life, a life defined by a warrior's honor and conquest. When Obi-Wan goes to the planet Mandalore to investigate rumors of Mandalorian warriors siding with the Separatists, he references his encounter with Fett. Minister Olmec totally disavows Fett's claim to Mandalorian heritage and heavily implies that it would have been impossible for Jango to come by his armor honorably. This is reinforced by the Death Watch entry in Star Wars Encyclopedia, which repeats that Jango Fett had no known association with Mandalore or Death Watch, leaving Jango Fett's true past a mystery. So, if Jango isn't a Mandalorian, then where did he get his armor? While it's possible that he killed a Mandalorian and claims the armor as a trophy, there is one tiny detail that seems to suggest that his armor is fake. Mandalorian armor is made from Beskar, an iron forged from the metals native to Mandalore and Concordia. As discussed in previous videos, the metal is highly durable, nearly impervious to blaster fire, and able to repel anything short of a direct and forceful stab from a lightsaber. Before the Great Purge under the Galactic Empire, Beskar was the only material used by Mandalorians in their armor. Aside from its obvious tactical superiority, the metal had a cultural and almost religious significance among the Mandalorian people. Just as Beskar was stronger than any other metal, so too were the Mandalorians stronger than all other cultures. And this forces us to ask questions about the aforementioned dent in Boba Fett's helmet. As we see in the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus, Beskar is able to take direct hits from blaster fire without getting so much as a mark. But what of Boba's armor? Well, according to the Visual Dictionary, Jango Fett's armor was not made of Beskar, but instead from a much more standard metal known as Durasteel. While Durasteel is still strong enough to put up some resistance to blaster fire, it is significantly less resilient than Beskar, and more importantly, significantly less Mandalorian. This explains the dent we see in Boba Fett's helmet, as his Durasteel armor was strong enough to keep him alive, but not strong enough to be Mandalorian. According to a deleted or unfinished episode of The Clone Wars, the dent was courtesy of a shootout between Boba Fett and the bounty hunter Cad Bane, with Bane's blaster being responsible for the helmet's ding. And this makes sense, since we know that Durasteel would be damaged where Beskar would stay strong. While surviving a shot to the head is still impressive, and we still love Boba, we know that the armor is confirmed to be made of Durasteel and not Beskar. And since we also know the pre-Empire Mandalorians made their armor out of Beskar, we know that he couldn't have possibly made Fett's Durasteel replica. This means that Jango Fett acquired or fashioned armor in the Mandalorian style, which is a fitting microcosm of Fett. Just like Fett himself, the armor looked Mandalorian, but unfortunately, in canon at least, it was only an imposter. And this begs the question, if the armor wasn't made by Mandalorians, then why was it made to look Mandalorian? Are the Fetts annexed into the culture? An homage of ways to the EU Mandalorian warriors of old? And how are the Fetts still the most famed bounty hunters if they aren't actually Mandalorians? Does bloodline matter at all, or is it all about being the best warrior that you can be? Is a Mandalorian still an ideal versus a bloodline? As we've seen before during the Clone Wars, a bloodline and peacekeeping Mandalorians are, well, they're not so strong. Some unknown thousands of years before the events of the Star Wars films, an energy field known as the Force comes into existence on a mysterious planet known as the Wellspring of Light. Three beings known as the Father, the Daughter, and the Son are all born as well. The daughter embodies the light side of the Force, the Son embodies the dark, and the Father keeps their power in check in the realm of Mortis. Sentient beings evolve and spread throughout the galaxy. The planet Batu becomes a central hub at the crossroads of many sub-light speed trade routes. However, the development of hyperspace technology allows for the further exploration and colonization of the galaxy, leaving the planet a relic of the past. The literal or figurative Prime Jedi is born, and Force-sensitive creatures gather on the planet Octo with the purpose of starting the Jedi Order. They construct a temple and a village on one of the islands there. The Old Republic is founded, and the Jedi dedicate themselves to the preservation of peace and justice among its citizens. They spread their influence on the planet, a relic of the past. The literal or figurative Prime Jedi is born, and Force-sensitive creatures gather on the planet Octo with the purpose of starting the Jedi Order. They construct a temple and a village on one of the islands there. The Old Republic is founded, and the Jedi dedicate themselves to the preservation of peace and justice among its citizens. They spread their influence to more worlds, including Ilum and Jeddah. Both planets become sacred to the Jedi as major sources of kyber crystals used in the construction of their lightsabers. An unidentified rogue Jedi splits from the Order, taking with him a number of followers, sparking the Hundred-Year Darkness and the creation of the Sith Order. A Sith temple is erected on Malachor, and at its heart is a superweapon powered by a massive kyber crystal. The Jedi attack the temple, and in the Great Scourge of Malachor, the superweapon is fired, petrifying nearly all participants in the battle. The survivors of the Sith Order retreat to a planet called Moraband, making it their new headquarters. Another splinter group of the Jedi, called the Ordu Espectu, begins researching the secrets of immortality. The Jedi oppose their quest, so the Ordu desperately sends their fortress through hyperspace to an unknown location where it is lost. A disturbed artist named Momin is discovered to be Force-sensitive and trained by the Sith Lady Shah. He eventually kills her, creates a superweapon, and attacks the planet Mustafar. The Jedi thwart the attack and take Momin's helmet for safekeeping. Perhaps in that very same attack, Mustafar's Force-sensitive ruler, Lady Corvax, loses her husband. She attempts to bring him back to life through the use of a relic known as the Bright Star. The ritual fails and throws the planet into unbalanced, lava-covered chaos. The Sith Empire spreads. The dark side users briefly control the galaxy and build a shrine on the planet Coruscant. 1,000 years later, Jedi and Republic forces successfully drive their Sith enemies away. Attempting to remove dark side energies from the planet, 4 Jedi Masters build a new Jedi temple on top of the Sith shrine. In the midst of fighting with the Sith, the Jedi encounter a warrior people known as Mandalorians. Fearful of the Jedi's mystical powers and the Force, the Mandalorians develop new technology to combat them on equal ground, and the Mandalorian Wars begin. Despite their differences, the Jedi accept a Mandalorian named Tar Vizsla into their ranks. He creates a unique lightsaber called the Darksaber, and after his death, it's stored in the Jedi Temple. The final conflict of the Mandalorian Wars occurs on Mandalore, the heart of the Mandalorian Empire. Their homeworld is devastated and scorched into a lifeless desert. The Sith Wars continue for thousands of years. Battles are fought on many planets, including Takodana, on the exact site where Maz Kanata will one day build her castle. The final confrontation is again on Coruscant. The Mandalorians, possibly in league with the Sith, use the opportunity to infiltrate the Jedi Temple and reclaim Tar Vizsla's Darksaber. The Sith are defeated, leaving Darth Bane as the sole survivor. Realizing that his peers' lust for power and infighting were a key element in their downfall, he takes on a single apprentice and begins the rule of two. Living in secret, the Sith could grow more powerful not only in the Force, but politically as well, until they could orchestrate the downfall of the Jedi and the return of the Sith Empire. As a result of the Sith Wars, the Old Republic collapses and is reformed into the Galactic Republic. Believing the Sith to be extinct, the Jedi Order rebuilds. About 500 years later, the
Cliff
Sith
says
instructed to imprison rogue Jedi in hopes of preventing any
I
future
think so
uprisings
too.
like the Hundred-Year Darkness. But the Galactic
I think this
Republic
one's gonna
aren't
come
pleased
out
with
looking
nothing but peace
real,
and
real
unity
nice.
after its creation. This era of tranquility becomes known as the High Republic.
I
The
hope his
Republic and the
brother
Jedi
comes
Order
out
both
looking
seek
good
great
too.
expansion of their borders and control of the
Sure he
galaxy
will.
until they are attacked by a group of raiders known as the Nile. A calamity known as the Great Disaster is the catalyst for significant change in the galaxy, including the beginning of the end for the Jedi. During both the times of peace and the conflict with the Nile, the Sith Order continues to remain hidden thanks to the rule of two. Darth Plagueis and his apprentice Darth Sidious are the latest Sith in Darth Bane's lineage. After learning everything he can from his master, Sidious kills Plagueis in his sleep. Darth Sidious is publicly known as Senator Sheev Palpatine of Naboo, and his ultimate goal is to manufacture a galactic conflict that will throw the Republic into chaos and allow him to seize political power. He meets the Night Sister Mother Talzin and takes her son Maul as his new apprentice. Together they travel to the ruined Malachor, where Maul witnesses the history of the Sith and is instilled with an intense hatred and desire for revenge against the Jedi. A Jedi Padawan named Mace Windu travels with his master, Sislin Mur, to the planet Mathas, where they arrest a man taking advantage of the locals by masquerading as Jedi. Another young Padawan named Qui-Gon Jinn becomes the apprentice of Jedi Master Dooku. Together, they research the prophecies of ancient Jedi mystics. Dooku's friend and fellow Jedi Master, Sifo Dyas, has visions of an upcoming conflict and attempts to warn the Galactic Republic. He is dismissed as a warmonger and removed from the Jedi Council. He takes matters into his own hands by commissioning the Kaminoans to create a clone army for the Republic, which catches the attention of Sidious. After Qui-Gon's promotion to Jedi Knight, his former master becomes disillusioned with the Jedi Order and peacefully steps down from his position, returning to his homeworld of Sereno. A slave named Shmi Skywalker gives birth to a fatherless son she names Anakin, who is conceived purely by the will of the cosmic force. Qui-Gon takes on an apprentice of his own named Obi-Wan Kenobi. During a mission to the planet Hyjal, he receives a vision through the Force that convinces him the ancient Jedi prophecies are true. At the age of 3, Anakin and his mother become the property of the junk dealer Watto on the remote desert planet Tatooine. The Mandalorian people experience civil war as Duchess Satine Kryze attempts to shift their culture from that of conquerors into pacifists. The militant group known as Death Watch wants to assassinate the Duchess, so Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are tasked with her protection. They live on the run for a year, and Obi-Wan and Satine develop feelings for each other. But when the war comes to an end, the Duchess returns to Mandalore to lead her now pacifist people, and Obi-Wan continues his Jedi training. Meanwhile, Jedi Master Yoda follows the call of the Force to a war-torn planet called Dagadar. There he learns to control a unique aspect of the Force known as stone power and brings peace to the inhabitants. A Jedi Master named Eno Cordova and his Padawan, Seer Junda, are sent to the planet Ontoto to settle a dispute between the locals and an interloping corporation. There, Cordova first encounters a mysterious Force-using species called the Zeppo, sparking an obsession that he follows after Seer is elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight. Maul grows impatient of his master's plans in secrecy and seeks to test his power against a Jedi Padawan named Eldra Cadus. He kills her, much to his master's delight. Sidious begins the first phase of his master plan by engineering a blockade of his home planet. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent to end the dispute. They rescue the planet's ruler, Queen Padme Amidala, and are forced to retreat to Tatooine, where they meet
Tentacly.
Anakin Skywalker. Recognizing him to be
Oh,
the
hell
chosen one
yeah,
of Jedi
bro.
prophecy, Qui-Gon arranges for Anakin's freedom and takes him back to Coruscant. The Galactic Republic's inability to solve the problems on Naboo reveals the ineffectiveness of the Senate and allows Palpatine to not only vote the Supreme Chancellor out of office, but also take the position for himself. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme return to Naboo to remove the blockade by force. Darth Maul confronts them and cuts down Qui-Gon before being dealt a mortal wound himself. Anakin is admitted to the Jedi Order as the Padawan of Obi-Wan. Despite the loss of Maul and the end of the blockade, Palpatine's goal is achieved and he sets his eyes on Anakin as Maul's replacement. But in the meantime, he begins training Dooku. Together they arrange for the death of Sifo Dyas and secretly take control of the clone army he commissioned. Anakin trains with Obi-Wan for 3 years, proving to be incredibly gifted in the Force. He falls under the mentorship of the Supreme Chancellor, who encourages the boy's thoughts that the Jedi Order are not what he expected. Anakin considers leaving the Order, but a mission with his master to the war-torn planet Carnelion 4 convinces him to stay. After serving 2 full terms as the Queen of Naboo, Padme Amidala is appointed to represent her planet in the Senate. She and her loyal handmaidens, including her body double Sabe, begin making political allies with other like-minded senators. 10 years after the blockade of Naboo, Dooku leads a number of star systems in seceding from the Republic, beginning the conflict that was foreseen by Sifo Dyas. The Republic Senate is hesitant to create an army. Dooku orders the assassination of Padme, who is a staunch opponent to Republic militarization. The assassination fails, Anakin is tasked with her protection, and the two fall in love. Anakin then has visions of his mother's kidnapping and death.
He travels back to Tatooine to save her, but is too late. His mother dies in his arms, and he slaughters her captors in a rage. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan investigates the would-be assassins and discovers the clone army on Kamino. Fearing they have no other choice, the Senate grants Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers, gives the Jedi Order command of the clones, and the Clone Wars begin. Anakin secretly marries Padme, rises to the rank of Jedi Knight, and is assigned a Padawan named Ahsoka Tano. The Republic discovers plans to a new superweapon in the hands of their enemies. Palpatine manipulates a small group of scientists and engineers into creating the weapon for themselves, but the super laser proves to be a challenging breakthrough. A cyborg separatist general named Grievous takes control of droid forces and wreaks havoc across the galaxy. Trained by Dooku himself, he claims many Jedi lives during the war. Jedi Master Mace Windu leads a small task force of Jedi to liberate the planet Historic. One member of his team, Foster Fields, believes the mission is not to protect the people of the planet, but instead to claim its resources. After securing Historic, Dibs claims that the Jedi Order should not play a role in such a large-scale conflict and turns on Mace. He is defeated and found guilty of treason by the Jedi Council, who mercifully place him on probation. Dooku takes on an apprentice of his own, a Night Sister named Asajj Ventress. Sidious grows wary of Ventress's strength and demands that she be killed as a test of Dooku's loyalty. She escapes the attempt on her life and becomes a bounty hunter. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are led to the realm of Mortis by the Father, who seeks someone to take his place as the keeper of the daughter and the son. Anakin proves himself to be worthy of the task, but the Force wielders ultimately destroy themselves, and the Jedi return to the known galaxy. Anakin and Ahsoka grow close, but they both see the less noble side of the Jedi when Ahsoka is wrongly accused of murder and kicked out of the Order. Anakin clears her name and she is invited back, but feeling betrayed by those she respected, she decides to leave. Anakin's trust in the Jedi Order is weakened. The true murderer is arrested and announces her belief that the Jedi had lost their way by openly serving in the Clone Wars. A young Padawan named Caleb Doom begins training under the Jedi Master Death of Alava after they thwart a terrorist attack on the Jedi Temple together. Ahsoka learns what life is like for the regular people of the Republic when she meets the Martez sisters, Trace and Rafa. She realizes that life is not as black and white as she once believed and continues to see the faults in the Jedi Order who have lost touch with the people they are meant to protect. The Jedi gravely decide that the fastest way to end the Clone Wars would be the assassination of Count Dooku. Quinlan Voss is given the job, and he teams up with Asajj Ventress. The two fall in love on the mission, but Quinlan falls to the dark side as he gets close to Dooku. He is redeemed and returns to the Jedi when Asajj gives her life to save his. In the midst of a battle, a clone murders one of his Jedi generals. An investigation reveals the presence of an inhibitor chip placed in the minds of all clone soldiers. Only two clones learn the whole truth. One is killed by his brothers for supposed treason, and the other is captured and placed in stasis aboard a separatist cruiser, which becomes lost in space. When Padme goes missing near the planet Batu on the edges of wild space, Anakin investigates and meets a Chiss tactical genius named Thrawn. They track down Padme, and together they all shut down a separatist factory. Maul, having miraculously survived his injuries at the Battle of Naboo, takes control of the planet Mandalore and leadership of the Mandalorian Death Watch, claiming the Darksaber for himself. He kills Duchess Satine in front of Obi-Wan as an act of revenge. Maul's actions catch the eye of his former master, who sees him as a potential rival and puts an end to his crusade by chasing him throughout the galaxy and killing his mother, Talzin. Maul regroups on Mandalore, hoping to lure Obi-Wan and Anakin into a trap, but Ahsoka leads the attack instead. With the help of Satine's sister, Bo-Katan, she is able to capture Maul. As the siege of Mandalore begins, war comes to Coruscant for the first time in 1,000 years. Anakin confronts and kills Count Dooku, again leaving Sidious without an apprentice. Obi-Wan travels to Utapau, where he destroys General Grievous. Padme becomes pregnant with Anakin's child, and he begins to have visions of her death. Desperate to save her, he seeks advice from Palpatine, who not only reveals that he is a Sith Lord, but that he has the power to save Padme. Anakin joins Sidious and takes up the name Darth Vader for a chance to save his wife. He betrays the Jedi Order, helps kill Mace Windu, and leads an attack
You
on
know
the
that in
Jedi Temple.
German, Darth
Simultaneously,
Vader means
Palpatine gives a
dark,
command to
dark
all
father.
clones that triggers their chips to kill the Jedi.
He's a
Within
German.
moments, most of the Jedi Order is destroyed. Anakin is then sent to Mustafar to assassinate the remaining leaders of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. With their deaths, the Clone Wars come to an end. Having no one left to oppose him, Palpatine transitions the Republic into the First Galactic Empire and proclaims himself Emperor of the Galaxy. Caleb, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Yoda survive the initial attack on the Jedi, although the chaos allows Maul to escape Republic custody. Yoda confronts Sidious while Obi-Wan confronts Anakin. Yoda is defeated and goes into exile on the planet Dagobah. Anakin is dismembered and badly burned, but left clinging to life by Obi-Wan. Padme dies giving birth to twins she names Luke and Leia. Leia is hidden with Senator Bail Organa on the planet Alderaan, and Obi-Wan takes Luke to his aunt and uncle on Anakin's homeworld Tatooine. Darth Sidious informs Darth Vader that his wife and child are dead. Sabe is suspicious of Padme's death and is contacted by Bail, who requests her presence on Alderaan. Anakin is forced to wear a biomechanical suit in order to survive, and he takes up his position as apprentice to Darth Sidious. He constructs a Sith lightsaber using the Kyber crystal of a fallen Jedi and is then placed in charge of the Empire's Jedi killers known as the Inquisitorius. Made up of fallen Jedi, they are tasked with hunting down and destroying any Jedi that survived the Clone Wars. One of those survivors, the chief archivist of the Jedi Order, Jocasta Nu, returns to the Jedi Temple to recover a list of Force-sensitive children. She is caught and killed in the process, but the list is also destroyed. Her actions lead the Emperor to find a vault full of ancient Force relics, including the helmet of Sith Lord Momin. The superweapon known as the Death Star continues construction, and the brilliant scientist Galen Erso is manipulated into designing the super laser. Caleb is forced to abandon the ways of the Jedi in order to remain hidden. He changes his name to Kanan Jarrus. Word of a Jedi hiding on Mon Cala reaches the ears of the Empire, so Vader takes a handful of Inquisitors, including the former Jedi Prosset Tibbs, to eliminate him. They are successful, and the Mon Calamari people find themselves completely subjugated with their king Lee Char taken hostage. Ahsoka hides in the Outer Rim for a year until she meets Bail Organa. They join forces to help systems that have fallen under the oppression of the Empire, and she takes up the codename Fulcrum. Thanks to the help of a high-ranking Imperial, Galen Erso discovers that he is constructing a weapon of terrible power for the Empire and escapes to the Outer Rim with the help of a rebel and Clone Wars veteran named Saw Gerrera. Darth Vader, the Inquisitors, and their Purge Troopers continue their hunt for surviving Jedi for the next 5 years. Sidious has doubts regarding Vader's loyalty and engineers a test for their survival at the rebellious planet Ryloth. Their ship is shot down, and Vader is forced to more fully embrace the dark side to keep them alive. Having destroyed most of the surviving Jedi, Darth Vader is gifted a planet from his master. He chooses Mustafar and builds a fortress there with the help of Momin's helmet, which is able to possess anyone who wears it. The fortress is designed to reach the netherworld of the Force, where Vader hopes to resurrect his wife. Momin betrays Vader and instead resurrects himself, but is quickly destroyed. A surviving Padawan named Cal Kestis is discovered by the Inquisitors, but he is rescued by Seer Junda, who also survived Order 66. Together they attempt to track down a holocron containing another copy of the list of Force-sensitive children, which was hidden by Cordova during his research into the Zeppo. Once the list is recovered, they decide the children are safer in hiding, and it is destroyed once and for all. Moff Tarkin, a merciless Imperial leader, is tasked with the protection of the Death Star after Galen's escape. Rebels come close to discovering the secret construction, but with the help of Darth Vader, Tarkin not only destroys them, but reveals an Imperial traitor. His success prompts his promotion to Grand Moff, the first of the Empire. Galen Erso remains hidden for 4 years, but is tracked down by his former colleague and Imperial Director of Advanced Weapons Research, Orson Krennic. Galen's wife is killed, he is taken into Imperial custody, and is forced to continue working on the Death Star, leaving his daughter Jyn in the care of Saw Gerrera. On Corellia, a young orphan named Han survives as a member of the White Worm Gang. He falls in love with a fellow scrum rat named Kira, and they plan to escape their miserable lives, buy their own ship, and fly wherever they want. But Kira is caught during their escape attempt. She is sold to the criminal syndicate known as Crimson Dawn, which is controlled by Maul. Han desperately joins the Imperial Academy to get off Corellia, where he butts heads with authority and his fellow students. One of them, named Violet Valance, suffers serious injuries on a mission, but Han defies orders to rescue him. Valance is forced out of Imperial service and becomes a bounty hunter under the mentorship of Nakano Lash. On a mission with fellow bounty hunters Boba Fett and Boss, Lash betrays them and kills their client, which puts a price on all their heads. After 8 years in hiding, Kanan has become a drunk freighter pilot. He meets a rebel named Hera, with whom he becomes infatuated. He sobers up and fights to protect a small planet in the Outer Rim, which requires him to reveal himself as a Force user. He joins Hera on her ship, the Ghost. Their actions gain the attention of a young Imperial captain named Rey Sloane. Obi-Wan continues to watch over Luke, who begins showing evidence of his potential strength in the Force. Curious about the might of the Empire, Thrawn allows himself to be captured and is taken before the Emperor, who is so impressed with the man that he is admitted to the Imperial Navy. A gambler named Lando Calrissian and his droid partner L337 aboard their ship, the Millennium Falcon, unknowingly discover the construction of a mysterious device that will later be known as the Phalanx Redux Transmitter. They share a number of adventures that Lando documents as the Calrissian Chronicles. When they help a group of slaves escape Imperial custody, the Falcon is impounded on the planet Vandor, so Lando heads there to find a way to break it out. After 3 years in Imperial service, Han meets a Wookiee named Chewbacca on the planet Nimban. Together they escape the Empire with a group of criminals run by a man named Beckett. They also travel to Vandor to rob an Imperial train, which would earn them enough money to retire. The job fails thanks to a rebel sympathizer named Infus Nest, and they are forced to answer to Crimson Dawn, where Han is reunited with Kira. They hire Lando and break out the Falcon to attempt another robbery, but ultimately Han and Chewie decide to help Infus. L3 and Beckett are killed, and Kira is forced to move deeper in the Crimson Dawn ranks to protect Han. Jyn Erso fights with Saw Gerrera and his partisans until he leaves her helpless in the middle of a battle. 16 years old and alone, she is forced to live a life of crime to survive. On the Outer Rim planet of Lothal, a boy named Zer Leonis looks forward to joining his sister in the Imperial Academy until she goes missing. Believing the Empire is behind her disappearance, he makes plans to infiltrate the Academy to find her. On the same planet, another boy, an orphan named Ezra Bridger, inadvertently assists some rebels in stealing some supplies from the Empire. Those rebels turn out to be Kanan and Hera. Ezra learns that he has abilities in the Force, and Kanan decides to train him. During that time, they discover and visit a Jedi temple on Lothal. Ezra also infiltrates the Imperial Academy and meets Zer. The two young spies help each other in their respective missions. Zer is eventually transferred to a more elite academy on Arcanus. There he meets Commandant Brindle Hux, who believes the future of the Empire requires a marriage of Imperial and Republic doctrines. Zer, with the help of Ezra, is able to find and rescue his sister, who is imprisoned after the Empire discovered her Force sensitivity. Leia Organa becomes a junior legislator in the Imperial Senate and learns that both her adoptive parents are members of the growing insurgency against the Empire. She begins helping Bail and Breha Organa secretly support the rebellion and even helps the Ghost crew on Lothal. Kanan, Ezra, and the rest of their crew cause enough problems for the Empire that Darth Vader himself is sent to hunt them down. Ahsoka also joins their crew when their small cell joins the larger rebellion. The three Force users travel to Malachor, hoping to find a way to defeat the Sith. There they find Maul, who had returned to the planet after apparently losing control of Crimson Dawn. He attempts to pull Ezra to the dark side and blinds Kanan before retreating. Darth Vader finds them at the Sith Temple and confronts Ahsoka. She fights him long enough to allow Kanan and Ezra to escape with a Sith holocron. Han, having won the Millennium Falcon from Lando in a game of sabacc, takes a job that involves the Phalanx Redux transmitter that Lando encountered 5 years earlier. Han briefly acquires it, but is forced to abandon it to float through space. Senator Mon Mothma publicly denounces Emperor Palpatine and rallies the various rebel cells into a unified movement. As their organization continues to grow, Thrawn, who has risen to the rank of Grand Admiral, is tasked with the destruction of Kanan and Hera's specific cell. Maul reappears and uses Ezra and the Sith holocron to determine that Obi-Wan survived the Clone Wars. He hunts down the old Jedi Master and is finally killed for good. The Darksaber passes to Sabine Wren, a Mandalorian member of Hera's crew. Meanwhile, Thrawn finds the location of Hera's rebel base and forces them to retreat to Yavin 4. He is then recalled by the Emperor and paired up with Darth Vader on a mission to Batuu, where they first met. They investigate a new potential threat to the Empire, beings from the unknown regions known as the Grysk. Sabine and her friends lead an attack on Imperial-occupied Mandalore, using the Darksaber to rally other Mandalorians to their cause. Sabine then passes the Darksaber to Bo-Katan as she returns to fighting with the rebellion. Unfortunately, the Empire does not take kindly to the uprising and sends their full might to pacify the planet. Countless Mandalorians are killed in what becomes known as the Great Purge, and the Darksaber is likely lost to the Empire at this time. When Grand Admiral Thrawn returns from his mission against the Grysk, he develops a new starfighter called the TIE Defender, which begins production on Lothal. Ezra and his friends return to Lothal to destroy the factory and liberate the planet, while Thrawn is yet again called away to investigate the growing threat of the Grysk. Ezra and the crew of the Ghost are ultimately successful in the destruction of the factory, but Kanan is killed in the process. Ezra returns to the Jedi Temple on the planet to investigate Imperial activity there. He finds a portal to a mysterious place what's known as the world between worlds that exists outside of space and time. He is able to see Ahsoka's duel with Darth Vader on Malachor, and he saves her from certain death. But each of them have to return to their own times. Ezra leads one final mission against the Imperial occupation on Lothal. Not only is he successful in liberating the planet, but he also removes Grand Admiral Thrawn as a present danger by jumping into an unknown area of the galaxy with him. When Han is held hostage by Imperial bureaucrats, Chewbacca is forced to investigate a nexus in the dark side where he discovers an ancient book, which is then stolen by rebel operatives named Cassian Andor and K2SO, but Chewie successfully rescues Han anyway. Still hoping to unlock the secrets of saving Padme, Darth Vader begins to seek the Bright Star beneath his castle. He tracks down the last living descendant of Lady Orvax, who is the only person able to access the relic. But the smuggler stops the ritual and escapes, saving the galaxy from untold pain. The destruction of the Bright Star allows Mustafar to begin healing. As the Death Star nears completion, Galen gets a message out to Saw Gerrera and Jyn, who reunite on Jedha. Galen claims to have left a flaw in the superweapon's design. Jyn personally witnesses the might of the Death Star when it fires a test shot onto Jedha, killing a city full of people, Saw Gerrera, and most of his partisans. Jyn leads a group of rebels in an attack on the Imperial planet Scarif, where the Death Star plans are held. The Battle of Scarif is the first large-scale act of open war against the Empire as a truly unified rebel alliance. Krennic, Jyn, and her entire team are killed in the mission, including Cassian and K2SO, but the plans are successfully stolen and passed on to Princess Leia of Alderaan. Her ship is captured by Darth Vader above Tatooine, and she sends the plans in an escape pod to the planet below with two droids in hopes that they can find Obi-Wan for safe delivery to Alderaan. As the Empire searches for the droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, they murder Luke's aunt and uncle. Luke and the droids make their way to Obi-Wan, who begins training Luke as a Jedi as they travel to Alderaan after booking passage with Han Solo and Chewbacca. But Grand Moff Tarkin orders the destruction of Alderaan as an example of its power, killing Bail and Rey Organa along with every being on the planet. When Luke and the others arrive, they are captured by the Death Star. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca rescue Leia and escape, but Obi-Wan confronts his old apprentice and is struck down. Leia delivers the plans to Yavin 4, and Luke joins the counterattack against the Death Star. The rebels are able to exploit the weakness placed by Galen Erso, and the station is destroyed, but Darth Vader survives. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca are given medals for their part in the Battle of Yavin. But the discovery of the base on Yavin 4 means the rebellion is forced to become mobile. Leia races across the galaxy, gathering surviving Alderaanians and bringing them to safety. On top of receiving a medal, Han is given a large sum of money so that he can pay off his debts to a gangster named Jabba the Hutt. But his poor decision-making leads him to lose it all, and so he and Chewie continue to help the Alliance, rescuing rebel spies whose covers were compromised in the wake of the Death Star's destruction. Chewbacca also frees a number of slaves on the planet Andome 4. Luke continues his Jedi training as best he can on his own. During his own mission to rescue a rebel operative, he gains some minor control over telepathy and some understanding of the inner workings of a lightsaber. On another mission, he travels to a Roman Jedi temple
Alright,
on
I'm just
Deveron,
about
where he
finished
is
on
able
this
to bring
guy.
in some remotes and greatly improve his mastery over the weapon. The loss of the Death Star inspires Imperial Admiral Garrick Versio to build an elite team of soldiers dubbed Inferno Squad. His daughter, Iden Versio, successfully leads them on their first mission to find, infiltrate, and destroy some of the surviving members of Saw Gerrera's partisans. Leia, Han, Chewie, and Luke attack a major weapons facility on Cymoon 1. There, Luke is met by Darth Vader, who recognizes his old lightsaber wielded by the young man. Vader begins an investigation with the help of the bounty hunter Boba Fett, who learns that Luke's last name is Skywalker. Vader realizes the Emperor has been deceiving him for nearly 2 decades and enlists the help of an archaeologist named Dr. Aphra to create a personal army that he can use to overthrow the Emperor. Aphra helps, but ultimately betrays him to the Emperor, who sees Vader's actions as assurance that he has devoted himself to the dark side and gives him command of Imperial forces. Fearing Vader, Aphra goes into hiding. In her place, Vader makes an ally in Queen Trios of the industrial world Shu Torren. Han is hired to participate in a famous race as a cover to pick up and rescue more rebel spies. He still hasn't paid off his debts to Jabba. Luke begins reading the journals of Obi-Wan to learn more about the Jedi. A woman named Sana tracks down Han, claiming to be his wife, but their marriage was part of a scam that he cheated her on, and she simply wants her share. She enters the service of the rebellion as a mercenary. A rebel agent on Coruscant is presented with a chance to assassinate Palpatine. His attempt fails, and he is horribly scarred. Learning the truth that the Emperor is a Sith Lord, he begins a crusade to murder Imperials being held in a secret prison until he is stopped by Leia. Luke, Leia, Han, and the others steal a Star Destroyer so they can deliver supplies to a starving planet under Imperial blockade. They are barely successful after coming into contact with an elite stormtrooper unit called Scar Squadron. Dr. Aphra returns to archaeology and, with the help of her murderous droids Triple Zero and BT-1, discovers the location of the ancient fortress of the Ordu Especti. She recovers the memory crystal of a fallen Jedi named Rur and hopes to sell it on the black market. She first seeks to activate the crystal by manipulating Luke Skywalker into helping her achieve an audience with the parasitic Queen of the Screaming Citadel. The Queen attempts to kidnap Luke, but is defeated, and the Rur crystal is activated. Aphra then organizes an auction for the crystal, but Triple Zero alerts Darth Vader of her whereabouts. The droid forces Aphra to release him as her servant to help her survive, and she complies. Now forced to serve the psychotic droid, she retreats, and the Rur crystal is recovered by Vader. Triple Zero sends Aphra on a mission to recover his long-lost memories, hoping he can unlock his true potential. She is successful, but encrypts them and alerts the Empire of her master's location to keep him from killing her. She is then sent to an Imperial prison, where she unknowingly meets the mad Dr. Cornelius Evazan, who helps her escape. He captures Aphra and Triple Zero, placing bombs inside both of them, and then drops them on the law-obsessed planet Bilbane, simply because he thinks it would be entertaining to watch them have to work together. The two of them disable the explosives, and in the process, they completely disrupt the lifestyle of the planet, causing an uprising against the Empire and Milbane law enforcement. Lando Calrissian, having continued his life as a scoundrel and gambler, is steeped in debt. He is hired to steal a ship full of priceless art. The ship belongs to Palpatine, and the art is of Sith origins. Moment's helmet is on board, and when it begins corrupting members of his team, Lando destroys the ship and escapes with his friend Lobot. After beginning construction on a second Death Star, the Empire returns to what remains of Jeddah to harvest the kyber crystals that power the weapon's super laser. Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie help the final remaining survivors of Saw Gerrera's partisans in defense of the moon. Queen Trios offers herself to Leia as an informant, and the two begin working together. Still seeking a permanent base, the rebels investigate the planet Crain, which was once used as a hideout by Leia's father. They set up some minor defenses, but are discovered and attacked by Scar Squadron, forcing the Alliance to stay on the move. Hoping to find more allies on Kala, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie attempt to break Lee Char out of Imperial prison. He is killed in the process, but delivers a stirring speech to his subjects, who liberate their fleet and join the Rebel Alliance. With the rebel fleet and leadership gathered in one place, Queen Trios betrays Leia, calling the Imperial fleet to their location. Many members of Alliance High Command are killed, and the survivors scatter across the galaxy. Luke, Leia, and Han become stranded on planet Cuban, where they are taken in by former mercenaries known as Clan Marcona. Scar Squadron eventually tracks them down, the moon is evacuated, and Luke, Leia, and Han rejoin what remains of the Imperial fleet. Hoping to strike back at the Empire, Leia creates a plan to remove Queen Trios and Torin as Imperial assets. They successfully disable the planet's infrastructure with minimal loss of life, but Leia does kill Trio in self-defense. From there, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, and Trio split off on various missions. Luke is sent to evacuate a rebel cell where he meets a Force-sensitive thief that teaches him a little more about the Force. Han and Leia run into her ex-boyfriend, who helps them lure the Empire into a trap set by 3PO and Chewie. Their respective missions successful, the heroes and their new allies rendezvous at the site of the new rebel base on the ice planet Hoth. Dr. Aphra's previous escapades catch the attention of the head of the Empire's propaganda machine, who recruits her to help assassinate the Emperor. The rogue archaeologist betrays her new ally to Darth Vader, which puts her back on his good side, at least as much as possible. She is assigned to a new archaeological task force that is researching old historical sites, hoping to find the new rebel base. Aphra discovers that the rebels have established their base on Hoth, and she once again betrays Vader by scrambling the information, buying the Alliance a few more months of safety before escaping. Vader runs into even more problems when he becomes the target of an assassination plot led by Violet Valance. The attempt is foiled thanks to Dengar, who served as a spy within Valance's team, but Violet negotiates his freedom by leading the Empire to the criminals that hired him. The rebel base remains secret for about 3 total months before being discovered by the Empire, forcing an evacuation. Luke travels to Dagobah to find Yoda and begins to train under the old Jedi Master. Meanwhile, Darth Vader chases Han, Leia, and Chewie to Cloud City, which is under the ownership of Han's old friend Lando. Han and Leia fall in love along the way, but Vader forces Lando to betray the rebels, and Han is frozen in carbonite to be delivered to Jabba. Against Yoda's advice, Luke races off to save his friends. He is beaten in a duel with Vader, who reveals that he is Luke's father. Vader requests Luke join him to kill the Emperor and rule the galaxy together, but instead Luke escapes Cloud City with Lando and Leia. They attempt to rejoin the Rebel fleet, but their forces are scattered and unable to communicate with each other for fear of attracting Imperial attention. So Luke, Leia, and Lando return to Cloud City. Lando frees his old friend Lobot and makes sure his factories can't be used to further the Imperial war machine. Luke searches for his lost lightsaber, but decides to go on without it. An Ugnaught finds it instead. Darth Vader begins to seek vengeance upon the people that conspired to hide his son from him. His investigation leads him to Sabe, Padme's former body double. They join forces as Sabe is also looking for revenge against the Emperor, who she believes murdered Padme. Meanwhile, Valance, Boba Fett, and Bossk are all alerted to a sighting of Nakano Lash. They all drop what they're doing to seek revenge for her betrayal years ago, even Boba Fett, who is still in custody of a carbonite-encased Han Solo. A group of TIE fighter pilots known as Shadow Wing begin to make a name for themselves. They witness firsthand the loss of faith in Imperial leadership and stop an admiral from leading a small secession against the Emperor. A rebel group known as Twilight Company participates in the Battle of Inyusu Tor, which is not a major victory but does bring the Solistan people more firmly into the rebellion. The Rebel Alliance discovers the Empire's second Death Star and begins planning an all-out attack after learning that Emperor Palpatine will soon be visiting the space station. Fearing the Empire will notice their mustering forces at Solist, Leia offers herself up as high-profile bait, leading the Empire on a distracting chase across the galaxy. When she returns, Luke tells her he has a plan to rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt. The rebellion intercepts a coded Imperial message that would reveal their attack on the second Death Star as a trap, but Inferno Squad infiltrates one of their ships and recovers the data. Leia and Chewbacca travel to Ord Mantell, where they are attacked by the bounty hunter Bosch. They defeat him, and Leia takes his armor as a disguise. She uses it to create a cover for herself and Chewbacca to infiltrate Jabba's palace. Han is successfully rescued, and Jabba the Hutt is killed in the process. Luke returns to Dagobah, where Yoda confirms that Darth Vader is indeed his father before passing away. Immediately after, the spirit of Obi-Wan tells Luke that Leia is his twin sister. Luke returns to the Rebel fleet, who prepares their assault on the second Death Star, which orbits the forest moon Endor. Luke, Han, and Leia lead a ground mission to disable the Death Star's defenses, but Luke decides to leave to try to bring his father back to the light side. He tells Leia all about their messed up family history and surrenders himself to the Empire. The rebellion falls into the trap, and in the Battle of Endor, Luke successfully redeems Darth Vader, who sacrifices himself to kill Darth Sidious, becoming Anakin Skywalker once more in his final moments of life. Luke escapes as the second Death Star is destroyed, and what remains of the Empire retreats. Han and Leia get married shortly after. The Emperor's spirit retreats to Exegol, an ancient stronghold of the Sith located in the unknown regions. There he inhabits a faulty clone of his body, and he begins work to one day regain control of the galaxy by constructing the largest fleet ever seen. Back in the known galaxy, another secret contingency plan set up by Palpatine is carried out by his most trusted commanders. Operation Cinder targets not only rebellious worlds, but the Imperial planets that failed to protect their leader. Inferno Squad falls apart in the wake of the destruction and defects to the Rebel Alliance, which has reformed into the New Republic. Inferno Squad is just one of many task forces sent out to hunt down high-ranking Imperials. Erica Quell, a former member of Shadow Wing, also defects to the New Republic. Her knowledge of the enemy allows her to be part of a small intelligence project called Alphabet Squadron, a more targeted task force meant to wipe out the elite ties of Shadow Wing. Feeling that the New Republic's priorities are not where they should be, Han and Chewbacca go rogue and lead a mission to liberate Chewie's enslaved homeworld Kashyyyk. The New Republic ultimately decides to help, and the Wookiees are freed. Luke begins traveling the galaxy to research the Jedi Order and gather missing relics of their past. He recovers a Jedi Star Compass leading to Ahch-To and the first Jedi Temple. 1 year after the Battle of Endor, Operation Cinder comes to its conclusion at the Battle of Jakku, which sees the purposeful destruction of most of the Empire. Ray Sloan, who has since been promoted to the rank of Grand Admiral, transmits coordinates to the few survivors who are considered worthy. They escape into the unknown regions and rendezvous with the Emperor's secret super star destroyer, the Eclipse. Most of the Imperials left behind surrender, and the Galactic Civil War comes to an end. On the very same day, Leia gives birth to Ben Solo. Mon Mothma quickly begins to demilitarize the New Republic to assure the galaxy that the time for fighting has ended. Leia trains as a Jedi with Luke for a time on the jungle world Agent Voss, but she decides to stop when she senses danger in her son's future. When Ben is 2 years old, Han and Lando are forced to revisit their former adventures involving the Phalanx Redux transmitter. They learn the device has the power to turn all droids into killers, and they seek it out and destroy it before it can be activated. With a significantly smaller military performing under a new government, much of the galaxy falls into chaos. In the Outer Rim, a group of Mandalorians struggle to survive. One of them, named Din Djarin, works as a bounty hunter and is tasked with delivering a child of the same species as Jedi Master Yoda to a small group of Imperials. Instead, he takes the child under his protection, running from Moff Gideon, who now wields the Mandalorian darksaber. In the unknown regions, the Imperial remnant faces many dangers and only survives thanks to the help of a mysterious being known as Snoke. He is a puppet of Palpatine's who slowly takes over the Empire by eliminating his competition until he is the only option left to follow. The Empire becomes known as the First Order. Palpatine's clone body begins to decay, and so his acolytes attempt to create new clones for him to inhabit. The only successful specimen is a non-genetically identical, non-force sensitive man. Hoping that he will one day produce offspring strong enough to contain his power, the clone is sent into the galaxy. He marries and has a daughter named Rey. Hoping to hide her from the Emperor, she is left on Jakku at the age of 6 years old. After years of learning about the Force and the Jedi Order of old, Luke decides he is ready to begin his own Jedi Academy, taking his nephew Ben as one of his first students. Snoke appears as an ally to Luke, offering to unlock new secrets of the Force, but his true purpose is to slowly corrupt Ben's heart. On a trip to explore a Jedi outpost from the High Republic era, Luke, Ben, and their friend Lor San Tekka run into the Knights of Ren, a group of dark side using warriors who secretly work for Snoke. Luke forces them to retreat, but not before they tempt young Ben with their power. A First Order scouting ship crash lands on a savage planet called Parnassus. A brutal warrior named Phasma helps the First Order officers contact their allies, and in exchange, they allow her to join their ranks to help train a new breed of soldier. She helps General Armitage Hux murder his father Brendel so that he may rise further in the ranks. Having grown ill, Mon Mothma steps down as leader of the New Republic. The Senate quickly devolves into corruption without her leadership. Leia becomes a candidate to lead the Senate, but a rival learns that she is the daughter of Darth Vader and her political career is destroyed. In the midst of all this, Leia learns of the existence of the First Order, although not by name, and she creates a secret resistance to better protect the galaxy. Luke senses danger in his nephew and ignites his lightsaber against Ben in a moment of weakness. Ben knocks his uncle unconscious in retaliation, and in his anger, he accidentally destroys the temple, killing many of his fellow students. Three survivors chase him to Snoke and the Knights of Ren, who accept him as one of their own. Their leader kills one of the Padawans, unleashing fury in Ben, who kills the leader and takes control of the Knights for himself. He alters his lightsaber, joins the First Order, and takes up the name Kylo Ren. Devastated, Luke goes into hiding, and Han and Leia go their separate ways. Bazine Natal is hired to retrieve a mysterious package from a veteran of the Battle of Endor. Sidon Athano, the pirate also known as the Crimson Corsair, follows a beacon to a rumored secret treasure of Count Dooku. Instead of riches, he finds a clone trooper named Kix that had been frozen in stasis for nearly 50 years. A young, Force-sensitive boy named Carr learns how to use his powers in psychometry to research the Jedi of old, whose history has been twisted by years of Imperial propaganda. He begins to collect old relics so that he can learn and tell a more accurate version of their tale. A Resistance spy named Vi Marati is captured by a First Order stormtrooper captain named Cardinal. Together they uncover the truth of Captain Phasma's treachery, Cardinal defects, and they both head back to the Resistance. Poe Dameron, the son of two veterans of the Galactic Civil War, becomes aware of the First Order and leaves the New Republic Navy to join General Organa and the Resistance. He leads Black Squadron in covert missions against the First Order as they attempt to gain more influence in the Senate. Their main priority is to find Luke Skywalker and bring him back to health. Poe is able to track down Lor San Tekka, whose research points them towards the hidden Jedi Master. Poe also takes a young Bosnian New Republic pilot named Kazuda Ziono under his wing. After joining the Resistance, Kaz is stationed on an old space station named the Colossus on the planet Castilon. There, he sees the First Order infiltrate and attempt to take over the platform. The First Order is also hunting Luke and tracks down Poe and Lor San Tekka on Jakku. Poe hides a map to the Last Jedi in his droid BB-8, who escapes the fight. Poe also escapes the First Order thanks to a defecting stormtrooper who comes to be known as Finn. They head back to Jakku to find BB-8 but are separated. The droid enlists the help of Rey, who has remained on the planet for the last 14 years as a scavenger. They meet up with Finn and leave the planet in the Millennium Falcon, which has been sitting inactive on Jakku for an unknown amount of time. Han and Chewie quickly pick up the ship's transponder and retake it. They agree to take Finn, Rey, and BB-8 to Takodana to get help from Maz Kanata. Maz discovers Rey has powers in the Force and offers her the lightsaber that once belonged to Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Meanwhile, the Resistance sends their bombing squadrons on a relief mission to a remote system. Fearing the Resistance will soon reach Luke, the First Order activates the superweapon they have spent decades constructing, Starkiller Base. They destroy the New Republic Senate and its fleet in mere moments. From across the galaxy, Iden Versio witnesses the destruction and begins to investigate First Order activity with her daughter, Zay. They board a Star Destroyer and steal a number of schematics. From Cascalon, Kaz witnesses the destruction of his homeworld. Despite his grief, he rallies the citizens of the Colossus against the First Order, reactivates the station, and escapes into hyperspace. Kylo Ren attacks Takodana and captures Rey, hoping her knowledge will lead him to his uncle. Han, Chewie, and Finn travel to Starkiller Base to rescue her while the Resistance attacks the weapon itself with
Pretty
nuclear bombs.
decent.
They hold Captain Phasma at gunpoint in order to lower the base's shields. After being interrogated by Kylo, Rey begins to understand and control her powers. She is able to free herself and find Finn and the others. Han confronts his son, hoping to bring him home, but instead Kylo kills his father and faces Rey in the duel. She defeats him but leaves him alive. As Starkiller Base explodes, she escapes with Finn, Chewie, and the surviving Resistance pilots. Meanwhile, Iden and Zay hijack the Star Destroyer they boarded and pull it out of hyperspace just in time to witness the destruction. Iden dies from a blaster wound, and Zay takes the schematics back to the Resistance. The single First Order officer discovers Phasma lowered Starkiller Base's shields, so the captain hunts him down and executes him before he can tell anyone else. At the Resistance base, the final location of Luke Skywalker is discovered. Rey and Chewie set off to find him on Ahch-To. The Resistance quickly evacuates their base after being discovered by the First Order and are chased across the galaxy by Snoke's personal flagship. Most of the pilots of Black Squadron are sent to gather help for the Resistance in the Outer Rim. Luke refuses to train Rey or return to help, believing the galaxy is better off without the interference of the Jedi. Desperate and with no one else to turn to, she forges a strange mental connection with Kylo Ren and the two bond. Luke witnesses the two of them conversing through the Force and demands she leave. She does so and seeks Kylo out on Snoke's ship, believing he will return to the light side. He does kill Snoke, but wishes to shape the galaxy into his own vision rather than join her. Rey escapes and meets up with Chewie on the Falcon. Running out of fuel, the Resistance flees to Crain and takes shelter in the defenses that were set up so long ago.
Alright, here it comes.
Luke finds the Resistance enough time to be rescued by Rey before Kylo realizes he is only a projection of the Force. The effort of creating the illusion causes Luke to become one with the Force, but his example inspires the Resistance and the rest of the galaxy to stand and fight against the First Order. United on the Millennium Falcon, Finn, Poe, and Rey swap stories until Poe hears word from his fellow Black Squadron pilots. They have become pinned down after a First Order attack, and Poe races off to rescue them. He is successful and returns to General Organa's location, hiding on the planet Ryloth with some old allies. They begin to gather what few leaders of the rebellion remain so they can rebuild and continue the fight against the First Order, who takes control of many of the major systems of the galaxy, including Corellia. Rey continues her training under the
This is
on Batu,
just the way that Clayton holds his pens, so
set up a new Resistance base.
my red and my
They're
orange are
discovered by the
swapped
First
here.
Order, but Archek sacrifices his
So,
life
you
to
know, you just
ensure
hold
the
them in the
safety
right
of the
configuration,
Resistance.
takes the lids off so you can just easily pull that out with just the top index and thumb. So.
However, he loses the
Okay, I'm going to do a reverse rainbow. I'm going to have to do a couple coats on this because the paint right here is super thick, which is fine. It's not really a big deal.
Get wrapped up in the battle and realize they cannot simply sit and wait for the First Order to leave, but must instead rise up against their tyranny. Kaz and the citizens of the Colossus also remain on the run from the First Order, who want to take control of their refueling station. But the citizens of the platform rally to stand against their pursuers and defeat them. Rey accompanies Leia on a mission to Mon Cala, hoping to recruit their old rebellion allies to their cause. But the First Order destroys any planet that provides aid to the Resistance and attacks the Mon Calamari. Aftab Akbar, the son of the late Admiral, joins the Resistance and provides a handful of new ships for their fleet. Meanwhile, Finn and Poe are attacked by bounty hunters seeking to cash in on high-value resistance targets. The bounty hunters are thwarted, and then they head to Batu on a job for Dokondar, a shady antiquities dealer. He pits the mercenaries against the First Order to secure an ancient Sith sword he's been
See how
after
light
for
that
years.
is?
While Rey, Rose, and Poe are off gathering supplies for their friends, they pick up a distress beacon from a less technologically advanced species that is under siege from the First Order. They offer their assistance and remove the First Order's presence. With his fleet finally ready, Palpatine makes his survival known to the galaxy. Fearing any threat to his power, Kylo Ren seeks to turn Rey to the dark side so that they can destroy the Emperor once and for all. Rey resists and then mortally wounds him during a duel when he senses the death of his mother. With her last bit of strength, Leia reaches out to her son in an act of love. Full of guilt, Rey heals Kylo, and the acts of compassion finally turn him back to the light side. He joins Rey in a
Try that one more time.
alongside not only the Resistance, but the entire galaxy who has finally had enough of galactic oppression. The fleet is destroyed and the Emperor is killed, but Rey also falls. Finn then sacrifices his life to bring her back. Rey buries the lightsabers of Luke and Leia on Tatooine, and she rejects her family name of Palpatine, choosing instead to be known as a Skywalker. Well, that's the first time I've done this video where it felt like there was a period on the end of the sentence. As of right now, May 4th, 2020, that's the broad story of nearly every canon Star Wars movie, series, book, comic, and video game. Some of the dates, especially early on, are rough estimates because early history hasn't been covered in detail yet, and obviously I couldn't include every little detail because this video is long enough as it is. But my hope is that you now have a basic understanding of where all the major pieces fit into the canon. Maybe you're interested in picking up some of those stories outside of the films to experience for yourself. But if I omitted something you think is important to note, please put it in the comments below. Since this is my yearly tradition on May 4th, I'll be looking to improve upon it next year. If you're new to the channel, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching. Happy Star Wars Day, and may the Force be with you.
His signature is so much nicer than mine. It's just how the way I've always
Here is why you cannot
signed my
exterminate
books.
us, Abu AT. We're not huddled in one place. We span the galaxy. We need no lords or leaders, so you cannot destroy our command. We can live without technology, so we can fight with our bare hands. We have no species or bloodline, so we can rebuild our ranks with others who want to join us. We're more than just a people or an army, Abu AT. We're a culture. We're an idea. And you can't kill ideas, but we can certainly kill you. What's up, meta nerds? This is essentially a documentary on the Mandalorians, or as they're called in their own language, the Manduade, meaning the children of Mandalore. Like that quote mentions, the Mandalorians aren't a species, but a culture. We'll get into their origins, their history, how they did start as a specific species, but ended up being mostly humans, notable Manduade across history, and their constant and important role as a third-party wild card in galactic affairs. Our story starts around 24,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, when the Tong species were entrenched in a war of elimination against the Zell. These Zell are the human natives to Coruscant. They had been fighting the Tong for centuries.
Gotta go for
When a
mine.
volcano erupted and leveled
Maybe
the
one
human's
more
capital,
time.
the Tong saw a chance at victory, launching intense raids over the next 2 years, as Coruscant was plunged into total darkness, the atmosphere full of volcanic ash. The Tong's terrifying raids would be immortalized in a
Alright,
poem
I just
that
gotta
is
let it
still
dry.
read throughout the galaxy, called the Weda Verda, the Warriors of Shadow. The Tong's whole culture revolved around war, with the society being loosely assembled warrior clans that all fought for their chieftain.
Thank you.